How does mindfulness contribute to happiness? From tech companies to business schools to the armed forces, why has mindfulness become a part of our culture? Why is it important to live in the present? And is there a difference between living in the moment and living for the moment? We will find out on this episode, which is the third of 7 podcasts in this series I call Mindfulness and Awakening, Reduce Stress and Find Fulfillment. Have you ever heard someone tell a depressed person to just be happy? To just get over it? Have you ever heard someone tell a person who is anxious to just suck it up or to snap out of it? Hey, things could be worse. It'll pass. It's all in your head. It's normal to be depressed or anxious sometimes. You have such a great life. You always seem so happy. First world problems. You have kids to think about, so you better get it together for their sake. It's all a part of God's plan. Pray about it. I will say a prayer for you. Just try to be positive. This will only make you stronger. I see it all the time, quite a bit on social media, when well-intentioned people attempt to lift up others by giving truly bad advice or dumbing down emotional illness to a trivial concept, when emotional illness causes real pain both mentally and physically, often leading to fatalism. About a decade ago, at the lowest point in my life, I was so full of pain and paranoia and confusion that I posted a message on social media that detailed my inability to be happy and that I was planning to transition to a place where pain did not exist. You catch my drift? Today, it is hard to say the word as it relates to myself, but I don't avoid it. The word is suicide. 10 years ago, I disappeared for days, and I was ready to leave the world. I had decided that my condition was hopeless, and my existence was a detriment to the people in my life, including my own son. In the end, I survived the attempt at ending my pain, and I found myself in a psychiatric hospital. The hospital only helped in that it allowed me to rest my bones and think and recover with limited distractions, but the actual care wasn't any good. The classes and the one-on-one sessions weren't therapeutic, and I didn't get better really. Even after I left the hospital, ongoing therapy wasn't adequate enough to solve my emotional illness, and I continued suicidal ideation, and I still do to this day. I will have a random thought about suicide, thoughts that just show up out of nowhere, and they are usually coupled with really cruel things that I say to myself about myself. But now I step deliberately into mindfulness, a practice that has absolutely changed the configuration of my brain. So I don't dwell anymore, and I move on quickly after examining the emotion, after watching the judgment about myself move downstream. And every time I use mindfulness to move on quickly from these horrible ideas about myself, it becomes more automatic. A decade ago, during the struggle, I returned home from the hospital, and a month later I opened up the social media account in which I left my farewell note, and I read the following comments from strangers and people I knew. I hate that you are in so much pain, but why make such a big production of it? Very selfish of you. God put you here and will take you in His time. You do not have the right to take your own life, so toughen up, face the situation head on, and look to God for strength. Your son needs you and would be very disappointed in you. You were never the one to let things get to you. I know you are stronger than that. Don't go out like a sucker. Suicide is cowardice. Stop letting the demons control you. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get your act together. Grow up and quit feeling sorry for yourself. Life is not fair or easy. Over 8 billion people on the planet. You have suffered no more than anyone else here. I feel sorry for what you have put your family through. This is a shitty thing to do to your family. You should be ashamed of yourself. What a sellout. How can I nicely say that you're being a selfish asshole? There is no absence of pain, only eternal burning and gnashing of teeth. Your flesh will be devoured over and over for eternity. You will look up and see heaven, but your pain will not be extinguished. Another comment simply read, "Pussy." Maybe you heard something that makes sense to you. None of the messages did to me. They were misguided and dangerous. They made me feel more vulnerable and weak and misunderstood. In the end, I was forgiven by the people in my life for my selfish behavior and for being a pussy, though no one ever looked at me the same way again. I got on with my life, and the pain continued, exacerbated by 2 bad relationships and codependency, even as I went to therapy on a regular basis. And then, about 3 years ago, I found mindfulness. I no longer consider myself strong or weak, and I do not experience the world through the eyes of others who might say I am strong or weak. The only thing that matters is that I am awake now. Because of mindfulness, we do not deal in experiential avoidance. We actively accept and embrace our history. You are not accepting and embracing the action or the perpetrators of the action necessarily. You are embracing yourself and the attached emotions as a permanent part of you, because there is no way to make them disappear. We do not attempt to change anything, because it cannot be changed, even as we emotionally obsess over it. And I know pain. I might not know your pain caused by people in your past or people currently in your life who won't go away. Pain I could never understand because it runs deep and involves very serious violations, criminal things, demented things, things that might have happened to you as a child, as a soldier, as an adult, things no one should ever have to endure. Things that are so bad that you might say, embrace those awful emotions? Embrace my awful history? Fuck you. You might say, I will never recover from this. I will never feel good about myself. And you might even say, I don't deserve to be better, because you blame yourself. Or, I never want to remember. You might say, I will always have an uncontrollable emotional response to this pain. I will always judge it. I don't take anyone's trauma, pain, or hardships lightly. Here we are, though. Maybe by accident. Maybe because you have a sliver of hope that you will find yourself again, underneath all the piled-on bullshit that you never deserved. Because as we focus the best we can on the direct and present experience, instead of trauma from the past and the conceptual future that you might believe will lead to continued pain, we will get better. Even a little bit is going to make a difference. We also learn to not live in a passive or fatalistic way as we wait for change in our circumstances or for change to occur in other people. We actively engage in the present experience, and we react to it in a way that is emotionally fit. And we psychologically accept our history of trauma, how we have been treated, or how we have treated ourselves. Because our record cannot be removed, but it doesn't have to be our focus. We can be emotionally flexible and not automated by the past's hardships and their consequences and how they make us feel. And we do not engage in judgment of our conceptual self that we might define as broken, damaged, and hopeless. We are larger than the content of our past and the attached emotions. We engage in our current experience that we direct in a mindful way for our benefit and well-being. Happiness is not a personality trait. While a person might have a happy disposition, behavioral psychologists reveal through their work that happiness is not a fixed characteristic. In a recent study, Dr. Richard Davidson, a professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Wisconsin, associated reported feelings of happiness to electrical activity in specific areas of the brain. He discovered that positive feelings accompanied additional activity in the left prefrontal cortex, while negative feelings brought additional activity in the right prefrontal cortex. Davidson described the ratio between the right and left prefrontal cortex as the mood index, and along with Kabat-Zinn, who we have discussed in a previous episode, demonstrated that people who had participated in mindfulness training had readings that shifted more to the left of the mood index than people who had not. Mindfulness has the ability to rewire the brain and massage into being a more positive view of life. We often hear that money cannot buy happiness, but we can also say the same for pleasure. When our primary goals are great wealth and cheap thrills, our existence becomes spent and indifferent. People who chase money and excitement find temporary joy, but never ongoing happiness. They move from activity to activity, searching for something that they will never find. They link their life to hedonistic pleasures. They are never fully satisfied with their life, and eventually a downward spiral finds them. While we find the value of mindfulness to be living in the moment, it has nothing to do with seeking pleasure that carries the mantra of live for today, who cares about tomorrow? No. The contribution that mindfulness makes is that it establishes a relationship with the present moment, and living in that manner is what brings happiness. It is more than a subtle difference. Materialism and cheap pleasures pulls you from happiness, while mindfulness brings you to it. Mindfulness is like pure love, as opposed to pure lust. We are talking about the settled and solid love that people find in long-term relationships with partners, friends, and family members. As corny as it might sound, love with people, not things, brings us happiness. And mindfulness opens up our awareness to the people that are the most precious to us. It helps us understand the way they feel, and it helps us express our feelings better. And because of this, love flourishes and brings a happiness we have never fully felt. Additionally, as we become more mindful, the small circle of love inhabited by our closest relationships grows to include everyone, which brings even more joy. Happiness is also associated with purpose, or living for something that is worthwhile and driven by values. Mindfulness practice also helps you recognize your true purpose as you develop self-understanding. By fine-tuning your concentration and decision-making abilities, you build self-confidence, which also helps you with finding purpose because more doors open up to you. Additionally, gratitude brings happiness, and mindfulness encourages us to be grateful by dismantling the nagging appeal of priorities that stem from status and opens up your eyes to gifts of camaraderie, friendship, and the beauty in simple things. Finally, Acceptance of what you cannot change is another quality of mindfulness that lifts our sense of well-being. Misfortune or mistakes test our resiliency on occasion, but mindfulness promotes resilience because it nourishes happiness, making it less likely to be compromised by the pitfalls of life. Always remember that there is a foundation of contentment at the core of your heart, but it has been covered over the years by life's experiences. This has led to an autopilot existence that does more harm than good. And mindfulness creates the space you need to help you easily discover contentment when it is needed the most. You are not alone in your pursuit of mindfulness. It is spreading quickly because it is easy to practice, and it has sweeping, proven benefits that improve well-being. In the past 2 decades, it has become part of mainstream Western culture. Self-help disciplines that provide a way to increase happiness have a solid chance of flourishing, and the practice of mindfulness does this with evidence-based research that shows that it makes people less likely to fall prey to stress and keeps people consistently high-spirited. Additionally, mindfulness improves personal effectiveness at home and in the office because it improves concentration, communication, memory, and emotional self-control. No wonder it is so popular. While Kabat-Zinn brought mindfulness out into the open in the modern age, its movement to the mainstream truly occurred when business and public figures touted its power. In 2007, Google's Search Inside Yourself initiative introduced mindfulness to more than 1,000 of its employees, and the program eventually evolved into the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, which teaches the practice to corporate, nonprofit, and government organizations around the world. Similar programs have taken root in Silicon Valley and inside other Fortune 500 companies. The mix of promoting happiness and improving personal effectiveness through mindfulness training has become popular to employers because it increases workplace efficiency and better overall results in product innovation, creation, and delivery. This occurs because mindfulness hones people skills, creating more focused and adaptable teams who do not become overwhelmed even while juggling multiple priorities. Even business schools have embraced the practice. Bill George, a business person and academic, brought mindfulness to the Harvard Business School because he wanted to develop self-aware and self-compassionate leaders. Additionally, U.S. Armed Forces personnel receive mindfulness training in their coping strategies program. And prisons use mindful programs as well. And it has been effective in improving the self-esteem of prisoners, which has reduced hostility among inmates. Finally, experts credit mindfulness with improving the performance of athletes. Research on runners, archers, and golfers who practice mindfulness has shown improvements while performing. Mindfulness puts them in the zone, a quiet place of complete focus in which they absorb the experience and their actions through concentration, an effortless feeling, and a reduced self-consciousness. Imagine what you can do with this high-flying feeling in your life. Mindfulness practice in all realms of society evolved from a place of authority. It is not some wild idea that came from thin air. For years, Eastern philosophy has nourished key innovative figures in academia, entertainment, and business. Apple founder Steve Jobs was a Zen Buddhist, and his beliefs became a part of Apple product design. It was well known that Jobs sat and observed on a high level, which helped him notice and calm his restless mind. With the taming of your restless mind, you will refine your intuition because when the mind slows down, you begin to see, as Jobs put it, an expanse in the moment. The key to mindfulness is to move into the most pure state of the present instead of any notion of doing. Through mindfulness practice, we tend to our feelings, sensations, and thoughts, And this practice reduces the influence of the negative energy that attaches to our minds. Our doing mode provides us with efficiency in the physical realm because it provides us with an autopilot to keep us moving steadily ahead throughout the day. But it also influences us negatively because it creates anxiety, for it compels us to think about the future and regret the past. On the other hand, our being mode keeps us centered. It brings us basic and non-judging awareness that sits in the foreground, blocking the view of doing. Mindfulness is a vital internal resource that we can call upon at any moment, for it provides us with calm and peaceful nourishment in the middle of busy days. This is not wisdom through spirituality. Mindfulness is a life jacket that keeps us afloat in the middle of a roaring sea. It provides us a practical way to stay above the water on a daily basis to keep you sharp in a physical and psychological way. Getting to a state of being takes practice, as we have discussed. For example, if you attend an intense office meeting that includes required actions with impossible deadlines, you will presumably find yourself in doing mode, and dropping into being mode might seem impossible. You are in the middle of a train of thought, and now you must attempt to abandon it for the sake of being. It certainly is not easy. Try this thought experiment to get a better picture of how you can tackle this seemingly impossible task. Imagine that you are sitting on a bench in a park. Imagine that you are looking at an empty park swing that is swaying in the breeze. You let go of everything in your mind except for that swaying park swing. Because you are focused with intent on the swing, there is no room in your head for the past or the future, for stress or anxiety, or any feeling or emotion. There is only the swing. When a thought intrudes, you let it float out of you, just as it floated into you. There is no reason for battling with the feeling or thought because you are not doing anything. You are only being. You are not judging or engaging. There is only room for the swing in your mind, and you have chosen to be mindful of it in that moment. Thoughts that intrude are neither welcome nor unwelcome. It is important that you are aware of the characteristics of being, as opposed to those found in doing. Consider the following points of being as you begin your practice. Live in the moment. While being here now, you do not engage with any thoughts from the past or the future that pop into your mind. Furthermore, do not respond or react to inner or outer distractions, and do not become absorbed in any one emotion or its accompanying story. Simply notice these things and watch them float away. Be non-judgmental. Do not measure what is happening or has happened against what you believe should be happening or should have happened. There is no place for should during mindfulness practice. Be accepting. Do not engage in the thoughts of criticism or disappointment with yourself. Always show compassion to yourself when you think of perceived mistakes you might have made or might be making. Be attentive. Focus your mind on the experience in the moment and, when it gets distracted, gently return your focus to the object of your attention. Thanks for listening. On the next episode, we will go into detail about living in the past and obsessing about the future, discuss how to break habits, and find out how to use mindfulness to rediscover your true identity. This is R. Smith. Some people call me Robin, some people call me Bird. Either way, this is a Balefire podcasting production. Until next time, enjoy the moment.